Thank you. Um, Thanks for telling me that you couldn't hear me. So we started again. That the reason why I'm here today is to talk about the confirmation hearing of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, and I brought in a special guest today because her and the judge have a similar background, and she can best speak to what she felt occurred and what a lot of Americans felt occurred as it related to this confirmation hearing. And she's been a guest on Instagram with us, but I want to say that she will bring some context to what a lot of people were wondering as it relates to the type of questions that were being asked of her by the senators on both sides for the most part. So without further ado, I want to bring in attorney Ikeisha Al-Shabazz.
How long you know me? It ain't no L. It's Al.
Al, I said Al.
Al.
I was chewing.
Al.
I was chewing a piece of gum.
Get your life. Trying to think.
Welcome, Ikeisha.
Thank you,
Welcome.
thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me. I don't have
Thank
a
you for
lot.
showing up. Thank you for
Yes,
showing up because you
thank
always show. You always show up. You
you. I
always show
try.
up.
I try. I try. I try.
So we're gonna get right into it. We watched. I would say Judge Brown Jackson was being being grilled for almost 15 hours. Would you say
Oh,
almost 15?
way past that.
Way
Fif-
past 15
We're
hours.
at 15 hours on day two.
Oh my goodness.
Right. So day three, with day three, I'm well over 20 hours.
I want to say for the very beginning, I had an idea where it was going during the first day when the senators were doing their introductions,
Right.
and I especially honed into what Senator Graham had stated about. He said something about racist. They may get some racist responses to the way he's going to conduct him in the Senate on from the right is going to conduct the hearing.
Right.
And I said, okay, he's setting this up already. I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know how far it would go. But
Right.
you and Judge Jackson have a similar past as it relates to public defending.
Yes.
Um, and she also had her background, you know, far exceeds just working, obviously at the district level, but the work she's done while she wasn't in court
Mhm.
spoke a lot to what she stands for.
Right. So I want to say, just to be clear, we have similar backgrounds in public service.
Public service.
Right. She was never a prosecutor. I don't believe that's in her background.
No, she wasn't.
The thing that I'm vilified for having been a prosecutor, and you sent black people to jail. Right. Yes, I did. So we have similar histories in that we both have been public servants with respect to the law. I have been a criminal defense attorney, but on the private side, she's a criminal defense attorney for the public defender's office, federal public defender's office. So she did not have, I would say, as much autonomy as I do in selecting the cases that you ultimately have to defend. So she did not have that ability to say, yeah, no, don't want to do that. So a lot of the cases that they were talking about, particularly the representation of detainees at Guantanamo Bay, were cases that were assigned to her while she was a federal public defender. When it's just your job. Your supervisor comes to you and has a stack of cases and says, these are your next set of cases. You don't go through them as a public defender and go, yeah, I didn't want that one. I don't. What's his name? Abdul Salami. Don't want him. You can't do that. You can't. You don't have that autonomy or that liberty. And so for them to try to vilify her for the work that she does in support of the Constitution is outrageous. Outrageous because you can't say I'm upholding the Constitution and then turn around and vilify someone for providing counsel which the Constitution guarantees. You can't, it's just nonsensical.
And,
Nonsense.
it's important to note what you just said that you worked on both sides as a trial attorney, prosecution and defense. There
Yes.
was a lot of talk about from the right on how the prosecution of cases wasn't the prosecution of cases. How would I put this as far as it relates to the prosecute? She basically prosecutor asked for a lot of time in a lot of cases,
Okay,
and
so
she departed
yes. So what
from
you're talking about when in her capacity as a judge, when she had presided over, these were the child pornography cases. The argument was that she did not give them enough jail time. That she should have sentenced them consistent with the recommendation of the prosecutor. So, just as a background, when there's a case and it gets to the sentencing posture, everyone puts in on what they think is the appropriate sentence. The prosecutors always think the appropriate sentence is somewhere near the higher end. The defense always thinks the appropriate sentence is somewhere near the lower end. And the judge has to fashion a balance between what's the most appropriate sentence, right? And usually it's somewhere in the middle.
and
Usually,
a pre-trial also sentencing report. It
pretrial
was
also sends a report and they also have a recommendation. After the Booker case, all these guidelines became advisory, right? Before this U.S. v. Booker case, judges were beholden to the guidelines. You had to sentence in the guidelines. So if you had someone who had a prior history, there was a chart. You would calculate from their criminal history points, and you match that with the number of points for the crime that they're charged, and you get this range of sentencing. Let's say, for instance, the range was 3 months to 12 months, right? Just bear with me. The prosecutor might recommend you get 12 months. Your lawyer obviously is going to recommend you get 3 months. And the judge is going to weigh a number of factors under the federal law. These are 3553 factors, which require the court to consider everything, not just what the prosecutor said, not just what the crime was, but the defendant's history, the defendant's character, his prior criminal history, psychological history. All of these factors bear into what the appropriate sentence is. What they try to do is make it seem like she was pro porn, right? Which is
uh,
ridiculous.
listen.
Ridiculous. So you didn't give them, but here's the problem. Why I say this is intellectually disingenuous. Because if you don't understand this argument, you might think what they're saying has some weight. It's intellectually disingenuous for a senator to ask that of a judge because the senators are the ones who passed the laws on the guidelines. Y'all are the ones who said it's permissible to sentence someone from 3 to 12 months. If you thought that someone who possesses child pornography should have a mandatory minimum, meaning you should go to prison for at least this number of years, then pass that fucking legislation.
Well,
Pass that
sir.
legislation. Don't make it seem like I am not doing something I'm that I can do.
Okay, what is your argument or your opinion on how Senator Cruz and I want to say it's Senator Hurley as well as uh, Graham. I don't know Graham too much, but they talk about the quantitative amount of images and the sentence that
Yes.
was given in certain cases. I think they looked at 5 cases.
Okay. Yes.
So, if there, what's your argument as to if it's 10 pictures or 100 pictures? Is
Again.
there should there be some type of depart from the guidelines? And how do
Again.
you weigh
Again.
that? Because that's pretty. A lot of people want to know why. Why did she depart from that?
What she was trying to explain is that one of the things that the Congress has not done is pass legislation to keep the laws up to technology. So when this child pornography statute was passed, there was no internet images and things like that. You
They would
had
go into the mail. They would send it
People
magazines.
don't remember how hard it was back then to get a picture, right? And so you had to have a predetermined idea, if I'm gonna go there, right? That this was something you were gonna engage in. You had to get the camera, you had to get the picture, you had to have it developed somewhere, right? We're not living in that time. So back then, if you went through those steps to amass a collection of porn, it indicated that you were a predator. right? It indicated that this wasn't some sort of accident, fly by night thing that just happened. What she should have done was made it clear that because technology has changed, the law no longer speaks to adequately this type of child pornography because the images are so readily available that you don't have to do anything to be in possession of them. They could simply come to your computer by mistake. Or I wish she had used this. How many of you have teenage kids, right? And
Mhm.
if there's a girl in the school that's a little loose with her titties and she sends out a picture and your kid gets it forwarded from the football team or the whatever, whatever, your kid is now in possession of child pornography. This
Okay.
wasn't a reality back then.
That is a good argument
That's
to.
the argument she should have made because then it brings it home. Oh, right. This is different now. We're talking about a different time. Your child now is in possession of child pornography. He didn't ask for that, right? But his friends thought he might like it. So what if 10, 20, 30 of his friends in the school all sent different photos? Now you got 30 different. So you're saying that this kid should get an enhanced penalty for every image that he possessed? That's not consistent with the law. That's not consistent with why we are punishing this and why we are putting people in jail for it, right? And so the law hasn't progressed, and
Do
that
you
and that someone could possess these images and really not be a predator, right? They don't
say
necessarily have to be a
say that
predator.
again? Because some people are gonna hear that sound bite. Some people can possess these images but may not be a predator.
Right. And then they need to rewind and they need to check their kids' phones. Okay. Because if your kid has photos of Susie Titty Girl from the cheerleading squad and a couple of friends at the sleepover who got frisky with their camera, your child is in possession of child pornography.
Do you
That's
think?
that's it. It's a zero tolerance. It's not about how you got it. It's not about whether you enjoyed the images, not about whether you distributed them, just that you had them. That's enough. So what she did not do eloquently enough, I think, was explain that technology, right?
Mhm.
When technology advances, then the Congress has to act. And that's what happened. Congress didn't act. And she didn't throw it back. She should have threw it back. She should have said to them, if you want there to be a mandatory jail sentence for the possession of pornography, pass that law.
Well, she said that.
Judge. I'm a
She said
judge. She
right,
didn't, I don't think she brought it home enough.
right.
You know what I mean? Because they kept bringing it up, which means she didn't tamp it down sufficiently that they
Mm.
could keep bringing it up, right? And so if she had tamped it down in that way, I don't think it would have come up again, right? Because the reality is that we live in a digital age now, and the laws need to keep up in that regard, and these laws have not. They
Do you
have.
think? Do you think the document, the Constitution of the United States, is antiquated document at this point in 2022?
The Constitution is a living, breathing document. It is not antiquated because it is subject to amendments, right? And so it needs to expand as we expand, as society expand, as we change. And it has, and it does, right? And so for them to keep bringing up things like Dred Scott, well, Dred Scott was Dred Scott. Dred Scott was not overturned by the Supreme Court. You motherfuckers did that.
Right.
The legislature did that with the 13th and 14th Amendments, right? Not so much even the 13th. I saw somebody tweet that. That's wrong. The 14th Amendment is what confers citizenship.
And she
Dred
kept
Scott
talking about the
citizenship.
14th Amendment.
Right. 14th Amendment. This whole idea about due process and substantive rights versus procedural rights, right? And so that's the other argument they were bringing up, which again, disingenuous that you're asking her how the Supreme Court has developed its substantive due process law. She's not on the court. She can't talk about it. She can't talk about it. So for you to then say to her, well, was Plessy decided right? Was Was Dred Scott decided right? What do you want me to tell you that I should not be a citizen here? You know what I mean? Like that was a little disingenuous. That-
A concern I had watching the confirmation hearing and the line of questioning that obviously Judge Jackson was going through is that there are judges at the district court level right now that's looking at this, and they
yes.
may be second guessing themselves and how they sentence.
No, they're not.
You
No,
don't
they
think so?
absolutely not. Listen, they have all the stats on sentencing, and you heard some of them come out. Judge Jackson's sentencing is not abhorrent. It's not beyond the pale. It's not inconsistent with what other judges. She doesn't stick out as someone who's a Bruce Wright sort of cut him loose. Bruce, she's not. None of that is accurate.
People don't know about Bruce Wright. That's funny you
Right,
mentioned
of
that.
course I do. So she's not that guy. You know what I mean? She's not. She's sending people to prison, but she's recognizing that sometimes these enhancements are not applicable, and so she doesn't apply them. And that's what we want judges to do. We want them to not be robotic in their analysis. We don't want them to simply look at these cases and just the paper. We want them to look at the people, and that's what she does. And I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
I don't know how if you can speak too much to this because you still are a practicing attorney, but today it was reported that sitting Justice Clarence Thomas's wife
Right.
was sending text messages to Chief of Staff Mark Meadows,
Yes.
and pretty much saying, "Still the protect the
Yeah.
the
Stop the steal.
stop
Oh,
the
yeah,
steal."
yeah.
And I said to one of the producers that Clarence Thomas might be compromised because
Yeah,
the best friend the best friend part stood out for me. So I'm sitting here with my best friend. I mean, who's a best friend but a husband?
he won't be compromised because the Republicans don't give a fuck about none of that, and this is a non-issue.
Is
This
a
is a
non-issue?
non-issue, and I won't be distracted by it. Clarence Thomas has a position for life, and this Congress is not about to impeach him for some shit his wife did, especially when they can't prove that he had anything to do with it, right? She moves on her own. Everybody knows Jenny Thomas ain't listening to Clarence. Get the fuck out of here. She been running that.
I'm hopefully he's not listening to her.
Well,
yeah, hopefully he's not listening to her.
it's not about what you know, it's about what you can prove. And they
Right, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Anything. So this is a lot ado about nothing.
The likelihood of her being confirmed is pretty much a done deal.
Oh, she's going to be confirmed unless she withdraws herself from the nomination. She has done nothing to disqualify herself, and the Senate, they don't need the Republicans.
They don't.
They got 51 without the Republicans.
I saw it was more testifying by the right, the senators to the right. There was a lot of testifying on their end.
Yes, because they're preparing for the midterms. The Republicans play the long game. The Democrats like to stay present, right? Republicans play the long game. Oh, I gotta go. I'm about to hang. I'm gonna have to go. Sorry, we could pick this up again. But the Republicans.
Well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Ikeisha, Al-Shabazz.
Republicans are playing the long game. We got midterms elections coming, and they are laying the groundwork to make sure that should we have to have this confirmation again, that they will have all the votes they need to either stop or put in whoever they want.
So with that said, I know you got a class. She's also a professor.
I gotta go.
She's a professor, and I'll tell you guys how to follow. I'll type in her IG and so forth. If you need a good attorney, I heard rumor. Hold on, I heard rumor that you might be retiring soon.
Yes. Well, I'm transitioning to other things. I will not be practicing.
Don't use the word transition. I don't like that word.
There's nothing wrong with the word transition. I'm not transitioning from this life. I'm transitioning from the practice of law to other things. But we'll talk about that.
Let's talk about it. Sometimes you'll be in the classroom a lot more.
Yes, exactly. Teaching is where it is.
Yes.
Teaching is where it is. So
absolutely. Well, thank you, attorney.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and it was always good talking to you because I'm listening at the comments. People are learning. They got the notepads out right now.
Good. You know what? We could do this again when I have more time. That way I could field some actual questions Because it's always important for me to make sure that people have the right information.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna have them line their questions up so when I bring you on, we can just go through it.
There we
All
go.
right.
Sounds
Thank
like
you,
a plan.
attorney.
All
Appreciate you.
right, take care.
All right now.
Peace.
Bye-bye. Peace. All right, guys. We had to bring the good guest in. I love bringing great guests in, and she's one of them. And this hopefully this has provided people a better understanding of the process with the turn, with this confirmation hearing, and how sometimes these hearings become politicized, and we just have to be able to see the games that are being played. Uh, I believe that the judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is very qualified for the job. Uh, she's from the hood. She went to public school, elementary, junior high school, and then Harvard. It says a lot about her. She clerked for uh, Justice Stephen Breyer. She clerked for other judges at the district court level before she became a district court judge, and now she's a judge on the circuit court. And I think that it's important for us who have sons and daughters who may be thinking about going to law school and then perhaps working their way up to the food chain of the highest court in the land. That would be the U.S. Supreme Court. These are some of the things that you have to endure, and this kind of pull the blanket off of how politics is at play a lot of times for these confirmation hearings. It's it's about the qualification, but more importantly about who can get into that seat that would align with the agenda of those who have obviously agendas of themselves for themselves. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Uh, do anyone have any question? Did anyone get a chance to see Celia Simone, producer for TMZ, on the platform last night? It was pretty cool. We're gonna obviously bring that interview to the forefront, and I mean, just this is International Women's Month, so I thought it was suited. It was important to have uh, African American women in various uh, fields, media, law, and other areas. If we feel the need to bring them on, we bring them on. Okay, Pam, she sees that. Winston. Okay, so Winston says Kantanji is a play, Kamala is a play. You need to kind of explain that. What play is at hand? I'm curious to know, Winston. What do you think? What play is at hand? I don't want to put you out there, but since you put yourself out there, let's talk about it. Do I need to bring you on to talk about it? Let's see. Let me bring you on to talk about it. Let's see. I'm gonna put the link out here. You can click on that link if you want to join the conversation. I agree with you, Pam Cochran. I totally agree with you. It would not have mattered. They were hell bent on distracting from the reason why she was there. While there were some senators from the right that were asking great questions, um, like Senator Grassi, he was one of the senators that were asking good questions. But I think most of them were most of the senators from the right kind of was lockstep on creating distractions, in my opinion. Okay, the link is there. You can click on the link if you want to join. Winston, but I do want you to explain your position if you feel comfortable explaining your position. I always like to know what you see, what you perceive the distraction is. When people say stuff like that, I kind of want to get an understanding because you might be here distracting. I don't know. Latanza Johnson. Yeah, she's very smart attorney. She's been practicing law for over 20 years. She actually represented Foxy Brown, rapper Foxy Brown, in a case in New York many years ago, um, and I just thought it was important for her to lend her expertise, being a former prosecutor as well as a defense attorney. So she's worked on both sides of the coins, and she's about to retire. Anyway, I was reading the questions, but I appreciate you guys coming in. I'm jumping in. I got to jump back out. Got some work to do, and my phone is going off, but it's on silence. This video will be here. Remember to subscribe. Remember to like. Remember to share. Subscribe, like, share, and hopefully we can bring her back on. Keisha Al-Shabazz back on. You have your questions ready because I'm gonna announce it soon enough, and you can join the conversation. Once again, I'm Dennis Byron, and I'm out.